Welcome to Ask the Advocate. My question is, what constitutes as consent? How do I know if I've given consent or if my partner has given consent? In a sexual context, consent is freely given. It's a choice made without pressure, manipulation, or while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. It's informed. Both people need to understand the full story. For example, if the agreement is to wear a condom and your partner takes it off, that is not consent. Consent is enthusiastic. During sex, you should only be doing the things that you want to do. Beyond verbal communication, consent is paying attention to your partner's actions and reactions and nonverbal cues throughout. Explicitly agreeing to certain activities, either by saying yes or another affirmative statement like, I'm open to trying. Consent is all about communication. Communicate every step of the way. Don't assume anything goes. Ask, is this okay? Do you want me to go further? Should I slow down? Consent is reversible. Either person can change their mind at any time. And if you decide you don't want to do something anymore, you're not obligated, even if it's something you have done in the past. So what is not consent? Consent is not the absence of no, but an enthusiastic and informed yes. Consent is not an assumption. It is not silence. Victims may be afraid or in shock to react during an assault or feel that they have no choice. Silence is not consent. When a person is a minor is not developmentally able to make sexual decisions and therefore is not able to give consent. A minor cannot give consent. Consent, when a person is under the influence of drug or alcohol or any substance, that is also not giving consent. Regardless of saying yes, a person under the influence is not of sound mind and therefore cannot consent. Consent is not assumed. Based on someone dressing sexy, flirting, accepting a ride, or accepting a drink gift, etc. Consent is never assumed. Consent is not coerced. When the yes is coerced, hearing a yes after you've been complaining or kept asking after hearing no is coercive and not an enthusiastic yes. Being convinced to have sexual relations or being coerced is not yes. That is not consent. Consent is something else. Consent is for a specific act. For example, kissing, removing clothes. This is not the same as consenting to sex. Be very specific in your consent. Given out of fear. Consent is not given out of fear of what might happen if you say no. And consent is not a duty. Just because someone is in a relationship with you does not mean that you have to have sexual relations. When you're engaging in sexual activity, consent is all about communication, and it should happen every time for every type of activity. Consenting to one activity one time does not mean someone gives consent for every activity or the same activity on other occasions. You can withdraw consent at any time if you feel uncomfortable. One way to do this is to clearly communicate to your partner that you are no longer comfortable with the activity and wish to stop. When you and your partner have clear and specific communication, you will know that there is consent between both parties.